Today, we are diving deep into the foundations of a relationship that's, well, it's really built on contradiction. You've got these rough edges meeting high art, protective loyalty clashing with just devastating personal trauma.
Hmm.
We've been handed this whole stack of sources detailing the intertwined lives of two people in Seattle. And our mission really is to understand how this deep-seated pain and these fiercely defended boundaries can actually create the perfect environment for an explosive, transformative connection.
It really is more than just a romance. It's a case study in resilience and I guess, the specific nature of healing.
Yeah.
We are unpacking the story of Brody Brown, a successful Seattle tattoo artist who carries the weight of his entire family on his shoulders,
Right.
and Elise Sorenson, a former professional ballerina whose, elegance masks a history of intense violence and profound emotional guilt.
And the sources get right into it. Their initial attraction, this unique friends with benefits agreement they set up, and then the critical moment where past secrets threaten to destroy everything.
It's a lot to unpack.
Right. So let's get into the setup, because the sources paint such a vivid contrast. On one hand, you have Brody Brown. He owns a custom tattoo shop, written on the body.
Great name.
It is. And if you just saw him on the street riding his Harley, broad shoulders, covered in what the source calls phenomenal ink, you'd peg him immediately. Classic rough and tumble bad boy.
And that appearance is so deliberate, isn't it? I mean, it serves as a kind of shield. But the sources, they just immediately shatter that exterior. Brody is content, he's domestically stable, and he's fundamentally driven by this deep sense of family responsibility.
He's the anchor.
He is absolutely the anchor.
And then you have Elise Sorenson. Just a complete contrast. She is the embodiment of classical discipline, a former principal dancer with the prestigious National Ballet Theater,
So that-
trained since she was 3 years old. She represents the highest level of physical and, artistic refinement.
Yet, her history is just. It's pure wreckage. She fled New York for Seattle. And this is key, not for a career change, but because her former life was completely unsustainable. The sources state it plainly. She left because, and this is a quote, there was nothing left but pain.
Wow.
So we're starting the story right at that intersection. His stability and her desperate need for security.
Let's talk about the setting for a minute. Late spring in Seattle. This neighborhood vibe is so crucial. It's tight-knit, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone's business,
Oh, yeah.
which just adds all this pressure to any new relationship. And the ultimate arbiter of all neighborhood business is the matriarch, Mrs. Cardini.
You cannot talk about this community without talking about Mrs. Cardini. She's 90 years old, she runs the block, and she's the local authority on
Well, everything.
everything, from lawn care to moral character.
Absolutely. She patrols both sides of the street, doling out lectures, often with her incredibly ugly but perpetually dressed-up dog, Stony.
I love the detail about Stony. Brody finds Stony deeply ridiculous, but he respects Mrs. Cardini. You have to.
She is the litmus test for respectability in this neighborhood, and she, maybe more than anyone, recognizes the profound difference between Brody's exterior and his heart. She's the one who tells Elise that he looks scary, but are sweet as pie.
And that's the community appraisal you need to know. That's the stamp of approval.
So this community context makes the inciting incident so much more shocking. Brody is he's walking to his mailbox, the most mundane domestic activity you can imagine.
Right.
And this dark sedan, driven by someone with a history of DUIs, just veers over, hits him, and flees.
A hit and run in broad daylight right in front of Elise's house.
And this is where that high art ballerina persona just drops and the survivor emerges. Elise doesn't freeze. She springs into action. She shows the surprising, almost clinical level of composure.
She's not just calling 911, she is performing triage.
Yeah, she's stanching the bleeding on his forehead, checking his neck and limbs.
And at the same time, she's relaying crucial information to the police. The car description, the license plate, the direction of travel. Her ability to organize data under that kind of extreme duress is remarkable.
Especially for someone whose background is in physical performance, not, emergency response.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it? It says so much about the level of control she learned to exert over her environment after years and years of chaos. When chaos erupted right outside her door, she became the eye of the storm.
And the poetic symmetry here. It's in Brody's first word as he starts to regain consciousness. He's focusing his big brown eyes on her
And he smiles crookedly.
and just says, Angel.
Angel.
It completely reframes their entire dynamic before they've even had a second conversation. She kind of laughs and corrects him. Not so much. You're going to be all right, Mr. Brown. Yeah, I don't know your name. But the damage is done. In his mind, she is his savior.
She's the grace that stepped into his violent moment.
And this immediately overrules all the mental notes she had made about him. The biker or bad boy she'd been observing from afar. He is now the vulnerable man she saved.
And she is the powerful woman who stepped in.
Okay, that right there, that's our conceptual bridge. To understand the sheer weight of responsibility Elise places on herself, and why she might need an angel to save her, even though she just saved him, we have to look beneath the leather. We have to understand the profound stability Brody had to build to survive his own early trauma.
So we shift now. We're on to Brody Brown, the family anchor.
This persona versus reality dichotomy is the most fascinating thing about him. You look at the exterior, the wary eyes, the muscular build, the Harley, and you expect volatility.
Right, you expect chaos.
But his life is the absolute opposite of volatile. He is defined by domesticity and this deep, quiet contentment.
He prefers hanging at home. He owns a comfortable house with a large deck where he can relax and just watch the sunset. His idea of a wild Friday night is watching a movie and eating popcorn with his sister. He's not chasing thrills.
No, he's maintaining a fortress.
That's a great way to put it.
And the reason he built that fortress, it goes all the way back to his childhood. When his parents died, Brody was only 11 years old.
11?
He was preparing for art school, already showing immense talent. But he sacrificed that immediate future to step into the role of parent for his younger siblings, Aaron and Adrian.
And this is a textbook example of what psychologists call parentification. When a child is forced to assume adult roles prematurely, they often develop these extraordinary capacities for responsibility, for loyalty, control. But they suppress their own needs and aspirations.
And Brody did just that. He sacrificed his artistic dreams to ensure his siblings could pursue theirs.
And that sacrifice paid off. I mean, it really paid off. Adrian Brown, his younger brother, is a triple platinum rock star. Aaron is also successful in the music industry. But crucially, his house, the one he maintained and renovated, that remains the absolute touchstone for the whole family.
It's the reliable, unchanging anchor. No matter how famous Adrian gets or how chaotic Aaron's life might be, they always return to Brody's house. This constancy defines him.
The community sees it too. Mrs. Cardini's sweet as pie assessment isn't just about him being nice. It's about his reliability.
Speaking of his artistic dreams, he didn't abandon art, he channeled it. His business, written on the body, is incredibly solid. It allows him financial freedom and time off.
And he is described as one of the best tattoo artists in the country. People travel specifically to Seattle for his work.
Adrian, his celebrity brother, highlights this. He says Brody is too humble to admit his own talent. We're talking about precision, fine line work, and an artistic vision that really elevates the craft.
And that competence is so essential to his character because it shows that the bad boy shell hides a profoundly competent, disciplined, and successful man who is just really, really good at what he loves.
Now, we have to talk about the complexity that comes with that kind of loyalty, and that means we have to talk about Raven.
Oh, Raven.
Brody's 15-year history with Raven, his ex-lover, current friend, business helper, it's critical to understanding his current emotional boundaries.
Raven is the quintessential free spirit. The sources are blunt about her. She is abrasive, lacks filters, and is entirely self-centered. She exists, and I'm quoting, at the center of her own universe.
And Brody admits she broke his heart early on when she cheated.
She did.
So here's where I have to step in with some skepticism. If she broke his heart and she's so self-centered, why does this intensely loyal, stable man keep her so close that she helps run his business? Is that loyalty, or is it a subtle form of emotional codependency, where he mistakes infrastructure for intimacy?
That's a brilliant question. And the sources answer it by shifting the foundation of their relationship. It moves from romance to service during a time of catastrophic crisis.
Okay.
Brody's bond with Raven is forged not in love, but in loyalty that was proven under fire.
Tell us about that crisis.
15 months of just utter chaos. Following the murder of his niece, Adele, his sister Erin had a complete breakdown. Brody had to focus entirely on supporting Erin, and his business was just collapsing.
And Raven stepped in.
Raven stepped in. She ran the entire shop, managed the books, answered the mail, watered the plants, without being asked. She refused anything but a basic commission.
That is the ultimate act of loyalty for a parentified man who needs his infrastructure to remain intact. She helped him maintain the fortress when he couldn't do it himself.
Exactly. For Brody, that act superseded any past romantic pain. She earned her place in his inner circle as a valued, if eccentric, friend who showed up when his family needed stability most.
It teaches us that Brody's definition of loyalty isn't about romantic perfection.
Not at all.
It's about reliability in the face of despair.
Which is an essential qualification for being with someone like Elise. He knows how to separate the fleeting thrill from the foundational commitment. He knows what reliable loyalty looks like even when it's messy.
And he also knows what he absolutely doesn't want in a primary partner.
Someone self-centered and volatile.
Exactly. His acceptance of Elise's non-negotiable boundaries later on is entirely informed by his past with Raven. He's ready for depth and security. So let's pivot now to the complete opposite world. The world of high intensity, high art, and devastating physical trauma that shaped Elise Sorenson.
We're moving into Section 3. Elise Sorenson. High art, high trauma, and rebuilding.
Her life was professional ballet, and not just, local ballet principal dancer with the National Ballet Theater, the NBT. She was the best of the best.
And she started at age 3. She excelled in the most coveted plum roles, like Giselle.
This tells you everything about her drive and her discipline. The world she inhabited is one of extreme rigor. She clarifies that dance isn't just movement. It's not just dancing, but you're acting too. Technically, it's very difficult.
Every muscle, every movement is controlled, judged, and perfected. She is a woman of immense physical capability and emotional control.
But that control was shattered, utterly shattered by the sheer brutality of her ex-husband, Ken. Her career didn't end because of a tendon tear or age. It ended because he inflicted injuries that were severe and lasting.
The list is horrifying. A leg broken in 2 places. Specifically, the femur was shattered by a baseball bat.
A baseball bat?
And multiple shoulder dislocations. The sources are very specific about the weapon used, which just highlights the sheer, targeted violence of the act.
For a professional dancer, their body is their entire identity. It's their livelihood. Shattering her femur with a baseball bat isn't just an assault. It's an attempt to erase her life, her career, her whole sense of self.
And the sources confirm the damage is permanent. Her balance and strength are compromised. There's no returning to the professional stage. In a way, Ken achieved his perverse goal. He took her ultimate passion from her.
So she flees to Seattle. She finds safety and undertakes this incredible rebirth. Fleeing New York was a literal flight from the scene of the crime.
And establishing roots in Seattle became her act of defiance.
It's an internal, quiet victory. She finds physical and emotional safety for the first time in a decade. And the source captures this sense of triumph so beautifully, describing her simple domestic contentment. Simply by standing there, happily enjoying a rage-free home and a glass of wine, Elise had won.
Winning wasn't about revenge. It was about existing happily, without fear.
But that victory comes with a profound shadow, the guilt of survival, specifically regarding her brother, Matthias.
This is where the story enters a really complex moral gray zone. Matthias was an opera singer, another high art talent in the family,
Right.
but one who struggled intensely with addiction issues. And he ultimately died of an overdose.
And Elise had cut him off. Her guilt is just. It's layered and corrosive. She admitted to Brody that she resented Matthias, that she saw him as a constant source of chaos in her already tumultuous life.
And that she felt genuine relief when he died.
Let's linger on that for a second. The resentment and the relief. It's an incredibly painful confession for her to make, even to herself.
It is. She cut him off because, as she said, he shot up in my house with my baby around.
Yeah.
So her choice wasn't coldness. It was a desperate protective measure for her daughter, Rennie.
Of course.
The shame comes from the relief that followed his death. The feeling that she should be mourning, but instead she felt lighter because that millstone of chaos was finally gone.
And the shame of choosing protection over unconditional familial love is a heavy burden. It's made heavier by the knowledge that her ex-husband, Ken, was also connected to drugs and trouble, which complicates her ability to fully separate herself from that dark world.
And this moral conflict, it defines her as a mother. She is fiercely protective of Rennie, who is 6. Rennie is described as a free-spirited child who inherited artistic talent from her father but has her mother's grace.
And Elise is meticulous about balancing guidance with freedom. She is ensuring Rennie thrives without becoming spoiled.
But the threat to their peace isn't just confined to the past. The structural remnants of her toxic marriage, they continue to exert pressure through her late ex-husband Ken's parents, the Sorensons.
The Sorenson.
The sources mince no words. They call them vile, horrible, evil people. They actively bully Elise's own parents and use the court-mandated monthly phone calls with Rennie purely as a weapon.
Just to get at her.
Exactly. They threaten her new life, claim she's an unfit mother, try to upset Rennie and destroy their stability.
And Rennie physically manifests the stress. She gets stomach aches and becomes cranky before these calls. Elise only maintains them out of legal compliance, desperate to avoid giving the Sorensons any ammunition for further legal attacks.
The vigilance required to maintain her peace is exhausting. That's why the announcement that her parents, Martine and Paul Dulac, are moving from New York to Seattle is so significant. As the sources note, they realize home is where your loved ones are.
Which just reinforces the theme. Family is the protective unit against the wreckage of the past.
Absolutely.
So now we have these two highly competent, deeply wounded people. Brody, the anchor, defined by sacrifice and complicated loyalty, and Elise, the survivor, defined by control and this immense hidden guilt. The only way forward for them is through an immediate, unavoidable physical chemistry that absolutely demands structure.
And this brings us right to Section 4, the high-voltage friends with benefits agreement.
The attraction is immediate, and it is overwhelming. Elise admits she felt a sensory bomb had gone off the moment she saw him.
Which led to intense masturbatory fantasies centered on his raw masculinity.
And Brody was just as blindsided. He admitted he couldn't stop thinking about her and wanted to kiss her after just 5 minutes of conversation.
And when that first kiss finally happens on her porch, the sources describe it as being so fucking good that he felt punched in the gut by desire.
But casual hookups are just not possible for Elise, not with her trauma, not with her commitment to Rennie. The attraction had to be channeled through rigid, non-negotiable rules. These boundaries are her armor.
Precisely. She lays down 2 core mandates. First, no sleepovers. This is non-negotiable for Rennie's stability. Elise vowed not to introduce men overnight until she was absolutely certain of the long-term future. She's protecting her daughter from the potential instability that plagued her own life.
And second, exclusivity and fidelity.
Right. She insists on only sleeping with each other, citing personal safety and mutual respect. This isn't just about jealousy. It's about control over her environment, ensuring she is not exposed to the potential for disease or the chaos of other partners.
And Brody's response is the key to why this all works. He doesn't balk. He doesn't push back.
No. He immediately agrees. He notes that it wouldn't be a chore to only sleep with her, since he hasn't wanted anyone else since the moment he met her. By accepting her armor, he proves he can be trusted.
And this rigid structure, paradoxically, is what unlocks their extreme intimacy.
It does. And the intimacy quickly transcends the physical. It reaches an emotional depth you rarely see in a purely FWB arrangement. The most profound moment is when Elise decides to dance for him in her studio.
This is huge.
This isn't just a performance, it's a reclamation of her identity. She performs a cha-cha choreography to Tito Puente, and the physical vulnerability of the act is immense. When she's dancing, she feels beautiful and sexy, acting as a siren and seductress.
She is taking back the instrument that Ken tried to destroy. She is demonstrating that her body, despite the shattered femur, is still capable of immense beauty and power.
And Brody sees it. His reaction is purely about respect and desire, fueled by her competence. He finds her movement achingly beautiful and keenly athletic, and it just intensifies his desire to an unbearable level.
He's drawn to her strength, not her fragility. He sees the principal dancer, not the trauma survivor.
Exactly.
So let's discuss the sexual dynamic, because the sources are quite detailed about how this trust enables this extreme physical closeness. It's characterized by high-intensity communication and a mutual desire that pushes their boundaries safely.
Yes, the focus is on mutual pleasure and communication. Brody's specific focus is on giving her pleasure, particularly orally. He is deeply attuned to her scent, describing it as salty sweet with notes of spice and tang.
That level of detailed sensual focus signals an engagement that goes way beyond the mechanical.
Absolutely. And they don't just stick to the bedroom either. They use key locations like the office couch, the desk, the studio stairwell. The variety underscores the urgency of their attraction, but the continued adherence to the rules, no sleepovers, maintains the necessary psychological distance for Elise.
And he deliberately challenges her vulnerability in a consensual way, a way that forces her to confront her own sexuality. He asks her to watch herself masturbate while thinking of him.
Which forces her to integrate her fantasy life with his actual presence.
And she responds by pushing her own limits. During Reverse Cowgirl, he instructs her to look at herself in the mirror, making her own pleasure visible and undeniable. He also explicitly tells her to touch her own clit while he's inside her.
The suggestion that turns her on and embarrasses her all at once.
This results in multiple orgasms and reinforces the power dynamic she needs. She is in control of her own pleasure, but she is utterly desired by him.
And the intensity varies wildly, from slow and sensual moments where they explore each other's bodies to urgent rip-off clothes and fuck frenzy, but it is always, always grounded in respect for the rules they establish.
The relationship is a success because the structure allows the chaos of their attraction to thrive safely.
It's the perfect container for it.
But a purely physical structure, however intimate, it can't sustain the emotional weight they both carry. That physical bond has to crack under the pressure of their pasts.
Which leads us to the most critical section of this deep dive, the conflict of vulnerability and guilt.
We've established that Elise carries this immense guilt over Matthias and the self-loathing associated with her relief after his death. But the source material introduces a far darker secret, a secret that explodes into the relationship following a visit from her parents.
Right, she's visibly upset after the visit, and Brody attempts to comfort her, trying to be the protector anchor she needs. But she pushes him away.
And she utters the lines that signal the core of her profound self-punishing shame. "You don't know me, Brody. You don't know what I've done."
And then comes the full, terrifying confession. She says it while standing on his porch, shaking, feeling like an utter fraud. No one knew what she was capable of. Ken did, but he was dead and she wasn't sorry.
Wow.
She wasn't sorry and she knew she should be. What sort of person wasn't sorry that she'd killed someone?
That is the ultimate survivor's confession. The implication of responsibility in her ex-husband's death, coupled with the profound, damning realization that she feels no remorse.
This isn't just trauma. This is the core of her self-loathing, the conviction that she is not noble.
It's a moment of total vulnerability. She expects judgment. She expects him to run. She's giving him the information she believes will finally repel him, confirming her own belief that she is unlovable and fundamentally broken.
And this is where Brody Brown, the gentle protector, proves exactly why he's the man Elise needs. His reaction is not panic, not judgment, and certainly not an inquisition into the implied crime.
He absorbs the confession completely.
He focuses entirely on her burdens, not her alleged dark capabilities. He talks about her guilt over Matthias, her resiliency in raising Rennie alone, and the sheer effort she puts into protecting her family from the Sorensons.
He redirects her shame. He encourages her to let go of the things she cannot control. He simply offers a protective presence. He tells her, "You and Rennie are my friends. I'm going to hug you first. Then I'll play and take you and Rennie out for pizza afterward."
That response is so profoundly important. It's an act of radical acceptance. He doesn't offer platitudes or try to fix the situation. He just anchors her in the present reality and offers domestic stability, a hug, a promise of pizza.
For a person reeling from trauma and self-loathing, that mundane promise of stability is far more valuable than any kind of psychological dissection.
His response, I would argue, is the ultimate testament to the loyalty we saw built through that Raven dynamic. He understands that genuine loyalty is not conditional on perfection. It's about being present during the worst possible chaos.
And that non-judgmental acceptance is what allows the relationship to move into its final phase, full integration into his community.
Right. His entire family, Aaron, Adrian, Todd, Benon, they not only meet Elise and Rennie, but they immediately approve.
And this approval is crucial because Brody's family circle is everything to him. Adrian and Aaron sense the depth of his feelings, recognizing he is totally into another woman emotionally, something he hadn't achieved even during his long, complicated history with Raven.
And the sources emphasize the shared, highly domestic events. BBQs, pool nights, just routines. This is how the protection network expands. Rennie integrates effortlessly. She makes fast friends with the neighbor, Nina, and feels comfortable with Brody's circle.
And Brody is clearly delighted by Rennie. He finds her something else. Amazing kid.
He actively includes Rennie, confirming to Elise that her non-negotiable boundaries were respected and understood. He knows that stability for Elise means security for Rennie.
And the ultimate confirmation of his investment, it happens on New Year's Eve. Elise explains their quiet family ritual: turkey, movies, pancakes, and the Rose Parade. And she admits it's not very glamorous.
And Brody's immediate response is pure confirmation of commitment. He asks to be invited. He chooses their quiet, domestic tradition over any louder, more exciting plans.
He tells her he can't think of a better way to spend his New Year's Eve, which solidifies his role as her anchor and proves his choice. He chooses home and stability over wildness.
And the relationship works because it fundamentally shifts the power dynamic Elise experienced with Ken. Brody is sweet enough to make her feel safe, yet he's still unquestionably alpha in his ability to protect and lead.
Which ensures she feels intensely desired without ever feeling controlled.
Exactly.
So if you look back at Elise's journey, it is a staggering study in resilience. She went from being a broken principal dancer, fleeing an abuser and grieving an addict brother, to finding safety, rebuilding a successful business, and entering a deeply supportive, passionate relationship.
The trajectory is upward, and it's earned through sheer determination. The key takeaway for you, the learner, is understanding that true stability in partnership doesn't require emotional simplicity. It often requires finding a partner, a Brody, who is resilient enough to absorb the full weight of your past trauma.
Someone who provides protective loyalty and who respects the non-negotiable boundaries required for healing.
And for Brody, the journey is one of self-actualization. He was the perpetual family anchor, constantly sacrificing for his siblings. With Elise, he finds a woman who sees his kindness underneath his tough exterior and, maybe for the first time, forces him to accept praise and recognition for his own accomplishments.
That's a vulnerability he rarely allows himself to display.
It is. The power dynamics are perfectly balanced. Because he accepts her boundaries, she feels safe enough to put her libido into sexual hyperdrive. She feels sexy and desirable as a woman for the first time since her world collapsed. The structure she demanded allowed her sexual freedom.
But we can't end this deep dive without returning to that dark foundation that Brody accepted without question.
Her confession.
Elise's implied confession of responsibility in Ken's death and her lack of remorse. She worries she is not noble. She carries that immense guilt knowing Ken knew what she was capable of.
And Brody only knows she was abused. He doesn't know the exact extent of her agency in Ken's death. He absorbed the statement. She wasn't sorry that she'd killed someone.
So if the past truly defines the present, what long-term impact will this unconfessed specific history, her capability for violence and that subsequent lack of remorse, have on the foundation of trust she and Brody are currently building? Brody's loyalty is vast, but it's based on what he knows.
Is this fundamental secret, her conviction that she is capable of dark, violent acts? Is that the one thing that could truly shatter the stability she has worked so hard to build? Or is Brody's acceptance so complete, so unconditional, that he would accept even that final, darkest layer of her past without breaking faith?
That's the lingering emotional earthquake, isn't it? The thing that sits right beneath the foundation of their happy Seattle home.
It is.
It's a profound thought that complicates the entire narrative of healing and trust. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We hope this exploration of loyalty, trauma, and explosive chemistry gave you plenty to consider. We'll see you next time.